Dear colleagues of all those different places in the world, I'm Alex Berner, a German film editor. I'm a board member of the German Film Editors Guild, BFS, and the founding board member of Tempo. First of all, I would like to welcome you all very much on behalf of the board of Tempo. Tonight, a little more than a year after founding Tempo, we have our first global event. And as I was told, we're expecting about 499 editors of 24 member organizations from all over the world. So I dare to be bold enough to state the biggest ever assembly of editors in the world. And I was wondering if we shouldn't submit this to the Guinness Book of Records. I would like to use this opportunity to encourage all of you who haven't yet joined the Tempo Film Editors Forum to do so. Since communication is one of our most important achievements, and the organization, we really learn the most from each other and about the different perspectives of our field if we communicate. So please join our forum. I would also like to encourage you all to come up with events, future events that we could do after this session one, because we need ideas, and you can also do this via the forum. The projects we're talking about tonight are all critical, internationally acclaimed TV streaming series. There is, for one, Into the Night, a production from Belgium for Netflix, represented by the editors Stijn Deconinck and Koen Timmerman, who worked as a team. There is Dark, a German production for Netflix, which had quite a large number of editors, but is represented by Anja Siemens and Denis Bachter. And there's Tehran, an Israel-Greece Apple TV production, who is represented by Roni Klimowski and whose editing partner, Dana Jardini Lichter, can't be with us tonight, which is very sad, but I'm sure he will represent it very well. I want to put a special thanks to Noga Brienes, Wiebe van der Vliet, and Charles Godin, who organized this great event today, which can really be called a mega event, which has been a tremendous effort. And even though we're digital, therefore muted, let us give them a big visual applause. And with this, I would like to hand over to your moderator of the event, Charles Godin.
Thank you very much, Alex. I don't know if everyone sees it, but there's this spectator list. The number is growing very fastly. Now we're 212 people from all over the world and still counting, coming in. So welcome everyone. We had this idea to talk about streaming platforms. It's becoming quite obvious, I think now. With the pandemic, the viewers and the subscribers are still growing in huge numbers. I just took some time to get the latest numbers. For example, Netflix worldwide has 195 million subscribers. Apple TV has 33 million. I don't know worldwide for every continent, but to give an idea as well, Netflix has become the second largest TV group in Europe, as 6% of the total European market. So it's very interesting to talk about it because it has huge impact on the local markets, the local productions, since we have, for example, Dark and Into the Night are both Netflix productions from the basis. And Into the Night was the first Belgian Netflix production. It's also interesting, and it's one thing that I also saw today that I think is quite impressive. The series Dark during the pandemic is the number 3 of the most viewed series. It's quite impressive. So congratulations to you both already. Not to make this introduction too long than it's needed, I would suggest that we introduce every series with the main facts. if you can recall approximately how many shooting days you worked on. Of course, it's changes from series to series. Maybe start with Dark. You have 3 seasons. Can you remember how many shooting days there were? Maybe on the seasons you worked on. How many editing weeks you had per episode, approximately. Would also be nice to know in what kind of team construction you worked. Did you have a supervisor, an assistant, maybe second assistant? If you could just give us an idea on what the show was built on, and how did you get the show also?
So hi everyone. Maybe I would start because of I joined the season 1 and partly from season 2 from Dark. Anja was there from the whole beginning till the end. So maybe I start with the season 1. From the shooting days, we had run about 5. We had 105 shooting days with the first unit and 46 with the second. So around about 150 days. And yeah, the weeks to edit per episode was difficult because we started from the very beginning, from the shooting. So we had 105 to 120 weeks around about for each season of Dark, and it was for every 3 seasons like the same. And when we started with the beginning of the shooting, so we had 6 or 7 weeks per episode, round about for the whole time. So it's so 4 to 5 weeks after finish shooting for Netflix Cut 1. Then we had 1 week for Netflix Cut 2 and 1 week for the final picture log. Roundabout though. Yeah.
Okay, and I could just say how the team was built. How did you organize the editors team?
Well, I think that season 1 was very different from season 2 and 3, just because it was a trial. They started with 1 editor. Then I was the second editor, and I was meant to start like 2-3 months later, but it turned out that it was far too much to handle. So I came in 4 weeks after the start of shooting. And we only had 1 assistant to start with. So we were 2 editors for 10 episodes and 1 assistant until Denis came. When was it? The beginning of maybe like after 3 months. So
yeah,
then
roundabout, yeah.
Then there was 3 editors, and we got the first assistant left, and then we had 2 different assistants until the end, which was very a lot to be taken care of. It was a struggle. It wasn't easy. So then in season 2 and 3, we were always 2 assistants to start all the way through, and 4 editors. But we didn't start all in at the same time. We had 1 editor, then a few weeks later, the second, the third, the fourth.
Yeah. And did you have a supervising editor, or was it more collaborative? Yeah.
No.
And did you know the directors already before?
No.
Okay.
No,
Only
both of it.
No, both of us didn't. Just the editor who started the very first season, he knew the director.
Okay, great. Thank you. I propose we go to Tehran. Roni, could you introduce us a bit the frame of the series?
The series is like 8 episodes, around 44 minutes. It's about a spy, an Israeli spy who goes into Tehran, and she's not such a good spy. The Israeli had a little problems with that. How come she's not so good? and we had like 55 days of shooting, and every episode was like 25 days of editing. And probably the first 2 episodes took more, but it was around that. I got into this project because I'm working with the director Denis for like more than 10 years and many series together, and which is cool, really to know each other. And after 1 week of shooting, they shoot all the series in almost all the series in Athens. They made Athens to look like Tehran, because we can't, Israelis can shoot in Tehran, or many others can shoot in Tehran. And so all the production were very far away from me. So after 1 week, we started the editing and sending scenes to Athens, to the director and the photographer, so that they can be, they know some things, what to change on the way, which was very helpful for them. And I'm working with Dana Yardani Lichter, which is, she couldn't be here today. And I did also 2 series before that with her, and we called her to come and join us, and we split the episodes together. Every editor has his own episodes, and we also had another, he's an editor who worked like a kind of assistant editor, who, because we were short of time for broadcasting, so we brought in also Yoav Shafir, another editor, who put up the scenes together. And this is it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So now to Belgium. Koen and Stijn, could you introduce us the series?
Hello, good evening to everybody. So yeah, the series we got is Into the Night. It's a 6-episode series, which each episode totals around 35 minutes. We were actually 3 editors editing Into the Night. So Mathieu de Puit is the 3rd editor, and we just split the episodes. So each editor did 2 episodes. It was about 30 editing days each episode for 9 shooting days. And then I think, yeah, we had an assistant from beginning till end. 1 assistant shared with 3 editors. And I started editing the week after the start of the shoot. And then a week later, Koen started, and a week later, Mathieu started. Yeah, I think we collaborated on the editing by looking at each other's edits, but it was really, there's 1 editor in charge of each episode. So there was no supervising editor. It was really, okay, this is your episode, this is what your responsibility is. And we got booked on the series actually just before the directors got booked by the post-production supervisor. And then the directors ended up being the directors. We were working on a series with them at the time we got booked. So we knew them quite well. So it was really a very collaborative experience. The show was shot in Bulgaria mainly. So not in Belgium, but in a studio. So the whole show is set on a plane. So most of the show is interior airplane, and the airplane was built in Bulgaria. So we went back and forth sometimes to the set to edit there, because the director's cut of episode 1 was finished before the end of the shooting. So the schedule was really super tight, and we really didn't deviate from the schedule also. It was set up in the beginning this is gonna be the workflow, and then we hit each deadline, and yeah, true. So
Great.
yeah, that's a summary of the editing workflow.
Thank you. So I think it's good so everyone kind of knows what the show are about, what the shows are about. Maybe I'm going to try something instead of saying you answer, maybe you can try to have a more organic conversation. And I would like to throw in the topic of collaboration with the streaming platforms, because we had questions from the audience as people were registering, and there were a lot of questions about it. The main question would be, did you feel there's a big difference between working with a streaming platform as Netflix or Apple TV compared to the TV channels or other maybe more national production companies? You can just raise your hand if you feel like answering, or just answer.
Yeah, the biggest difference for us was there's no time limit, or it doesn't have to be that long. In Belgium, they sell to the channels 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and we have to deliver 45 or 50 minutes. And on Netflix, they thought it was going to be 42, I think, but we ended up around 35, and they didn't mind because it was the length it's needed, we thought. So, and sometimes in case they say, no, you'll have to deliver 45, and then you have to look where you can add some seconds or minutes. And in this case, it wasn't. So for us, that was the biggest difference.
Yeah, which is a real benefit, because with the edited shows we've edited before, really almost all of them have come in under time. So the producer will sell a show to a network. Okay, it's going to be a 52-minute show, and then you have a 45-minute episode, which is pretty tightly edited, and then you need to find additional minutes just to hit the deadline, which makes your show slow, really. So almost all of the jobs we did previously to this was really about, okay, we need to sell this length. So for us, it was really comfortable that the length issue wasn't there, and you could just really look for the pacing of the show and reach the pacing you would want to reach, and not like a set time in advance. But that was like the biggest difference we experienced together. Also, there was a bigger budget on this show that you would have on Belgian shows. So there's a lot of visual effects that you would never find in a Belgian script, just because there's no budget really to accomplish that. So those two also, that you have a lot of additional editing time. So for a Belgian show, if you're lucky, you would get like 20 editing days to have like a 50-minute show, and here we get 30 days to reach 35 minutes. So there's really the time to go into the edit and only just really finish when you think it's finished, and then yeah, that's really comfortable to have the time you need as an editor.
Roni, was it the same for you?
I didn't feel much difference. Maybe the budget, like Stijn said, it's much more fun to have a lot of statists and visual effects that you can afford. Our production started first at the Israeli national TV, and then we sell it to Apple TV. So at the beginning, all these time frames, and we had to do it like that, and otherwise it's editing is editing. You need the episodes to be good, and you need the scenes to make you laugh or scare or have fun while you're watching it. It's the same TV, I think, at the end of it.
Did you get extra time once it was sold to Apple TV?
Extra time?
Well,
No.
yeah, no.
you're talking about editing time?
Yes. Because you said it
No,
started for the
no. It was like working. The show was almost. We already had like 2 episodes finished, online wise. So and then we show it to Apple TV and some other companies, and we went with these 2 episodes. But we already had like a schedule for Israeli TV, so we just continue work, Dana and me, like normal situation. The only thing that is, I think, very cool when you're working like that is like in Israel we have something like 10 million people, and when you sell your work to this Apple TV, Netflix, or whatever, you know that many other people can see. It doesn't affect your work, but it makes it more fun, I think, that your job.
So did they get involved in the feedback rounds also after, or did you really just make the show with the production and they just bought it, or they didn't give you feedback and ask for changes and stuff?
They didn't ask for any changes, only for they have like a special colored TV that they wanted to do after we finished all the episodes, and after it was screening in Israel. They took all the materials to the United States, because in Israel they don't have this computer or application or whatever, and they like, I don't know what's the name, and maybe this 200 people knows better than me because I'm not that good in online, but they have like a special platform, Dolby color 7 point, I don't know how much, and they did this whole process, and then the director had to see all over again and make like a little color corrections, who are special for their platforms, because they are very special.
Okay.
Anja or Denis, was it different working with Netflix?
I think first of all, it's a great opportunity to have such big players to produce stuff in different countries like Dark was, because you get the opportunity to do something really new. So I think all that series stuff on their platforms are giving us to the opportunity to try something new, to be brave in a kind of storytelling wise, or I don't know, etc. pp. So for us it was quite an experience, because we were the first German show who worked with Netflix, and also what Koen said, the time length thing is for me as an editor, most of the best things ever happens because of you don't have to fit that product in some, so it's much easier. So you have something is good on the end when you finish your work. So otherwise it's, I don't know, it's, you have some producers in-house there where you stay in contact, they give some to you, you discuss many things. I think it's a normal process during the editing. But first of all, it's I think the opportunity to work as, international wise, like, I think Dark is really special, because I think you never would see something like that in German television. So
Yes, but I guess I understand that for editors you have way less constraints. Something also experienced while working on a series, that because it was broadcasted at 8 p.m. Or maybe later, but the point is that the children might be watching during the first 15 minutes, and somehow they decided that the children will be in bed after that. We couldn't show any blood or any violence during the first 15 minutes. So that was one of the constraints of the channel that I remember. And of course, we had to also take account of publicity blocks. So that's also great. That so I guess for editors, it's all for the best. You can make it shorter, and you don't have to. You have way less rules to take account. But how does it go with feedback? I guess everyone should have different time zones with producers, or not really?
Yeah.
And how did it go? Well, was it a constraint? Was it more difficult?
It was a kind of a delay for normal, so they sent a play out to them, and normally 2 days later we got the first bigger notes to discuss in-house for us, for the team, also with Anja and Bo, the showrunner and the director. And yeah, but the delay was always, but it was okay. But during that time you worked on other episodes, or I don't know.
We didn't have that so often, actually. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't happen very much. It happens like 2 big.
Yeah, there were
you know,
always
Netflix at 1 and 2, and then you have the big notes, and
Exactly.
everything else it's in between the showrunners and the editors.
We're actually working with a showrunner who is in LA, so there's the time difference there, which is actually a benefit because you'll spend your whole day working, send the cutout at night, and he has a whole working day in LA of watching and thinking of stuff. We'll either do a chat in the evening or in the morning and discuss stuff. So you actually work your double your working days. So actually there, it's not easy that you're not in the same room, which makes communication difficult. But actually the time difference is kind of sometimes beneficial also to take quick steps because he's really involved. Once we have like a very strict day system, which is like 15 days for the editor, 5 days for the director, 5 days for the producer's cut, which will involve the showrunner's cut. So in those 5 days, you can really optimize your working day, which is kind of beneficial. And then we will have like 5 days doing notes for Netflix, which totals then the 30 days. So that's very strict. It's a rhythm that we keep for every episode. And to us, it's like the first show we do for Netflix. So we were under the impression that's like their system they like to use, which actually it works pretty good.
Yeah, it's a kind of a major system, I think so. So
yeah.
Maybe I like to make it as interactive as possible within some, because we get questions from the audience. And as we are talking about workflows, progress, there's a question from Gina Kalamasi. Could you talk a bit more about the working progress in the beginning? Did each editor start to do their assembly, or was it already made from the editing assistants? So basically, did you make your own first cut every time?
Yes. Yeah. How do you mean from an assistant, or if it was assembled, or?
Yeah, if it was another editor that made the first assembly, then you.
Well, it was a bit because we started. I started, for example, the second season. I started on my own, and then the next editor came in, I don't know, 6 weeks later, and then the next one a few months later. So you split the episode first in 2, so each editor has half. So you edit, the episodes until the next editor comes in. I don't know how to explain. So you have to pull it along until you can give up another episode. So you but you never assemble it fully, or most of the times not, because then someone else will come in before the end of shoot.
Yeah. And what do you think are the advantages of this kind of working workflow?
Well, I think it's more difficult for the person coming in later, at the end, because, for example, one episode I had to pull along until 3 months before picture lock, where, a lot was already done. And I think it's very hard for another editor to come in and having to work with something which is already such a pushed along episode.
Yes, and maybe especially with the structure of Dark, with all the timelines.
But do you stay main editor then?
No, no. It's whoever does the final cut was the episode's editor.
But you will go in and watch newer versions of that episode, or
Yeah, we tried.
Well, I think with Dark, it was very important to watch each other's episodes as much as possible, to keep track of the story, you know, and what because yeah, I think we also, because you know, of the timelines of whatever happens twice, or you know, and I mean there were things which were said too many times, so you had to like it didn't help to just take care of your own episode. You needed to really be ahead of all the other episodes.
For sure, yeah. But it depends from the beginning. Like Anja said, it was like, okay, there was a shooting day, the material, the footage came into the editorial, so it had to be assembled first in a more rough way, I think so. So that's so that all is be done for the first moment. After that, we edited all that scenes. People come joining the team. So I was the last one for episode 1. So I think that was the moment, Anja, when I remember right, that where we shared the episodes. So I think there was episode 8, for example, there were less edited at that moment. I think it was 2 or 3 scenes at the moment I joined the team. So we decided that episode is for me, so I can start with something isn't done. So the other episodes, there were a lot of more scenes done for the moment. And then we started to stay on our own episodes for the moment, for the next weeks, during that phase of editing. And we always try to keep updated us to talk about things, to discuss about things, especially for that show. It was so complicated. And we had all the time Jantje in the editorial. She's the showrunner and also the writer of the show. This helps a lot for many discussions or many things to solve, not all the time, but mostly. Yeah. So.
Having the writer in the edit room can also be challenging.
It was sometimes, definitely. Yeah.
There was also a very recurring question. How did you keep an overview? And I guess from Dark with the very complex structure, did you have like a big drawing on the wall, or did you have post-its?
Family trees.
Yeah, family trees. Each character had a timeline.
Scene cards. It was a bit of try and error for the first moment. So sometimes, not all the time, you have the script. It works well most of the time, but sometimes we switched some scenes from episode to episode. We had some deleted scenes. We have to cut down a lot of scenes because there was so much dialogue and so much talking and so much stuff in it you never needed. I don't know. So that's
I think it got a lot more complicated towards the end, in the 3rd season. Yeah. And I guess I had the benefit to be there from the very beginning to the very end. That, you know, most of it was pretty clear, but people who came in for the 2nd season, you know, sometimes they really struggled by not really knowing everything about the 1st season. So you have to communicate again, you know, to overcome the... Yeah, and Jantje had an assistant who we could always call to ask any questions about any family trees or what happened to the character.
Yeah. But so if I understand well, for Roni and Koen and Stijn, each time you made your own first assembly then?
Yeah, well, I prefer to do it as much as I can, because then I know that I have control about the materials. I know everything. I don't have to trust someone else, and I can feel the rushes the best way, especially on like first 2 episodes when you start to you need to make your own artistic language or whatever, how to format your show. After that, you can give that job to other, but I want to know all the time what do I have in my hands. I don't like when the director is when the director is asking me, what about in this? Do we have a close up? And don't want to know, to say, I didn't see it.
Did you edit? Did you start alone at first, or you were always 2 editors in the Tehran?
We were 2 editors, but I edit the first episode. So, but it's we like partners. She's working in the other room. We're very good friends, and she's very talented. And it's I really like it that we're talking a lot about the show and about other things, and we showing each other scenes. And many people are asking me, how come 2 editors are edits the same show? It looks different. It has a different group, but I think that it's better for the show. When I see some stuff, my characters, the same characters, in another editor's hands, and he can do something a little different, to use the music in a different way, and then I can say, maybe I can do it also. It's a good idea. And her the same. It's each one of us has his own strength, and we can improve each other. And I think that's a good team.
Same here. We we divide the episodes in the beginning, and we always try to make like 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's interest in watching each other's episode. There always should, but so you feel the story structure. But as you say, sometimes ideas come from watching each other's episodes. Is it music? Is it restructuring? Is it making? Yeah. You get ideas from each other, and also you watch each other's work, and it's always much easier to say something about Stijn's episode and vice versa, because you don't see all the work that already went into a scene. Sometimes you watch and he says, okay, he marks the problems there are in some scenes, and you help each other like that, I think.
Yeah, certainly when you're editing the assembly, you're just all by yourself. There's no director. It's just really you watching the episode over and over. And it really helps to have a set of fresh eyes on it. And on some stuff, you'll have loads of footage, and you'll end up doing a long edit because just you have loads of footage, and then somebody else sees it and he goes like, okay, but it's just a small scene in the story structure, so it should be really, really tight. And then that really helps to get like a few feedback rounds in if you work with 2 people before you show it to somebody else and before you show it to a director or even a producer. And then you can really take the next step before just showing it to anybody. And that's really the most beneficial about working together, I feel. Also that it's just way more fun because normally you sit by yourself a whole day in a room, and it's just like it's not a very social thing to edit. And if you're with the crew editing and you're with multiple people, it's just way more fun because a lot of ideas don't originate with you behind a computer screen. It's really when you're not editing that you get a fresh idea, when you're talking about it, or when you're just during lunch and then you'll think about something and it's just, wow, maybe we can do this or that. So I really feel that collaborating is helping the edit along very much so.
Yeah, I have a question with the changing, lockdowns, all these things, we're working at home. do you think it's actually possible to do this series editing alone in your home office and collaborate with other people? Or do you think it's no, I need to have my colleague next to me?
In Belgium, we're lucky we get to have like a hug contact, which is you get to have one person you don't need to respect a 1.5 meter rule with. For me, that's Koen. For Koen, that's me. So we can just proceed like we always do, from being the director and the showrunner. So in that sense, you're lucky. And yeah, I think it's still possible because we did like 3 shows last year. And Koen did one without ever meeting the directors. I did one without ever meeting the directors. It is possible, but I don't think those shows are really hurt by not meeting each other. But I would say it's less fun. It's just, yeah, it's you make a show when you're talking to each other, not when you say, okay, at 6 o'clock we're going to have a Zoom call.
In Israel, there is like a necessary work, necessary job, and unnecessary job. And the unnecessary job is supposed to be at home. And they decided that TV, to entertain the people, it's a very necessary job. So we're just working the same way we did lockdown or not lockdown. So I'm going out, empty traffic, and I'm going back home.
That's great. I have a question. I'm just like, as they're coming in, specifically for Into the Night. From Anja asking, how much did the characters change as the episode went on compared to the script and the footage? So did you change a lot during the editing?
I think we had a main character which was there was a big event in her personal life which made that she was very depressed, and then it turns out that if you start a show with a character that is very depressed and hardly has any fun at all, it's not the most engaging to watch. So we did work a lot on our main character together to engage the audience. So I think, yeah, sometimes you in the writing it's this way, and then you see it, and then you feel like, we need to change it a little bit, and then you start looking for those takes that are either making your character more enigmatic or more mysterious, or so I think there's always little changes in how you edit and then how it's written. Just you see if it works in function of the story.
Yeah, but no major changes or deletes or script changes. So
no. Eye rolls. She used to do a lot of rolls like this, and remember we had to cut it always out. The showrunner said no eye rolling, so you had to take takes where she wasn't doing the eye roll. It's an example, a specific example of changing her in a way.
You can change how an actor is a role. There's really, it's the way he or she played it. So it's really just, you can change like 10 or 20%, but you can't change the whole role.
Yeah. And Roni, did you have changes, big changes, script changes?
Script changes a lot. Yeah,
but changes of story while editing, did you have to make big changes, or
Yes, I must say it's because it's a thriller, so you have to all the time like do a little changes to make it. You take every phone call that you see that someone is picking up the phone, you say, who can talk to him now? And maybe it can be helpful for me after someone will see and say that we have a problem. You can move the story up. But it's you're doing it, I think, in a lot of series.
I think you will always be restructuring. Once it's
Yeah.
there's in a weird way a story that is written down doesn't function like a story which is on screen, and you will always see, even in your first assembly, you will immediately see, okay, I need to move there, and then there's stuff that's you always do. You always restructure, and you always leave out certain parts of the script that aren't as necessary as the writer thought that the line was at the point of writing. I think that you always do that. You change the story because it needs to be changed. Because the first assembly is, most of the time, it's not something you want to watch. Most of the time, it's kind of a surprise, and you go like, yeah.
A lot of the time you're doing it with the writer.
Sorry, Roni, I didn't understand what you say.
I said that a lot of the time you're doing it with the writer, if he's enough open-minded to his stuff that he wrote.
Yeah. I have a question. According to the final, episode of a season, it seems, or it feels like it'd be something very stressful, because you're building sometimes a whole season to this one episode. You create expectations. I also worked with an editor who said that he was always editing the pre final episode, so the one last episode leading to the final, which is setting up a lot of things. But how did it go? I mean, Dark, for example, but every season always has a huge anticipation in the final. So how did you deal? How did you feel? What was this final episode going?
Well, the Dark final episode was actually very difficult to, but it had a few reasons. First, it was written, the second season and the third season were very close together. So the writer wrote first the first four scripts. So we edited 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she wrote 5, 6, 7, 8. And it was so tight in the end that 7 and 8 were not a final draft in the script. So we had a lot to fix in the edit, but I think in the end it worked. It all worked. I mean, she had it. The thing is, when she wrote the first season, she already knew how it's all gonna end. So I think that helped to make it work. But then, the actual scenes and had to be. We had to rethink a lot in the last episode.
And what kind of tricks did you use to make some things work?
Voiceover. Yeah, a lot. No, and just kind of not holding on to it was kind of the second part of the last episode worked, but not the beginning of it, the first half. So it was really to let go of everything which was ever written or thought, and to rethink it anew. But she was very open, and with the director and everybody together, we kind of found a solution. Yeah.
I find as an editor, there's a lot more stress involved on editing the first episode of a series than the last episode, because the first episode is really, shooting is over, everybody is eager to see something, and everybody's hypercritical. You need to sell the story, you need to sell the characters. The first episode is really what will determine if people will watch the season. So it's really all the stress is on the first episode. And then by the time you reach the final episode, you know, probably, hopefully, you'll establish the language of the show, and kind of, all, you know, if the writing is any good, all of the narrative will be there, and it's just like creating the final, which should be easier than creating the first episode. I feel so. To me, it's always over that first episode that's like the big thing, and then the second episode is also not an easy thing to achieve, to have a good second episode. But I think after that, and then everybody's kind of reassured that it's going to work, and then you're set for the ride. But to do the first episode, that's really the biggest stress.
Yeah, Roni, for you as well, or how was it final or first?
Yeah, but like Stijn said, if you did the first one is the big stress. When you get to the last one, it's like more easy.
It depends how many seasons you've had.
And how well it's written.
Yes.
Yes.
How many times they spend on it.
Yeah.
I have a question that's also kind of interesting. The music. Could you say how the music was? Did you work with temp music from the composer? Did you work with other temp music, or did you get music already written for scenes?
So for the first season of Dog, it was a bit complicated because we had a composer on board from the very beginning, I think so. And he did a lot of themes, and was a process to find the right tone for that special show. And after a while, they decided to change the composer. So there were different things. There were style questions about the style, about the, I don't know, things about that. So we worked a lot with the temp sounds from other shows, other features, stuff like that. And on the end, I think so, on the end of the show, there came Ben Frost as a new composer on board, and that was really tricky because we had a really strictly post timing for every episode, so he hasn't a lot of time to do the sound. And I don't know, how was it on season 3, Anja, on the final one? Because of I wasn't part of the team in the season 3, but I think it's much easier because if you have a lot of themes from Ben and also stems, maybe to create something that was easier to find the right place.
Yeah, I think after the first it got easier, and then he just added to the worlds or to the new characters, you know, but we used his old themes as temps, and then he developed them further for each season.
Yeah, for us the same. It was a challenge to find the right tone in music for the first series, but now we're editing the second season, and it's definitely, once you have your assembly and you put music on it, you know in a way, okay, this is more or less the same scene as I have in episode 1, in season 1. So you can start building your episode with music from season 1. But after a while, you start changing it, I think, if you want to add something new.
I feel like season 1 it feels like a holiday to compared to season 2 feels like a holiday compared to season 1. Season 1 is really, wow, it's so hard to really find the tone and language, and music plays a big role in that and Into the Night, because the music really never stops. It's always pounding music, and the idea that Jason, the showrunner, had was really specific. For okay, it needs to be something electronical, and it needs to be there constantly. But to find temp music, electronical, that you can bear listening to for 35 minutes with characters going through a whole set of emotions, that's not easy. So looking for the pace and the right music in season 1 was like you had the editing, and then you had that incredible task, and then for season 2 it's just you see a scene and you think, that's kind of similar like that scene I did in season 1, and then you can use that as a temp, and it's really, the tools are there and you don't need to invent everything. So I find for now, and actually for all shows we did, season 2 is a lot easier to do than season 1, because there's you've gone through a whole emotional ride of what do we want the story to be, to look like, to sound like. And then at the end of season 1, everybody kind of agrees, okay, this is what we want, hopefully. And then for season 2, it's far more comfortable to edit the season 2. I can imagine if you're a new editor on a season, on a show you didn't do the first season, probably it isn't. Maybe it is because the tools are there in a way.
Roni, how was the music for you?
Here also we had a musician, Mark Eliyahu, which was his first TV project, and we chose him because he's a specialist in Iranian music, and he has a very special instruments like saj and other things that he can play, and he did a tremendous job, and we had a little fine-tuning to do because he never composed for TV, and sometimes you need to tell him, okay, where the characters they're speaking now, so we have to take things down a little bit. And I am also a musician, so in some sort a little part that with the, if it's a small production music, if I have something in my mind that I know what I want, instead of calling him, I'm going back home and playing it, and the day after I'm putting it on the Evin, and it's a lot of fun because it's sometimes instead of explaining someone, you know what you want to hear. So I do it sometimes. Also in Tehran.
That's great.
And it's fun too.
Yeah. I guess sometimes as an editor you say, I need this little element, like music, you have it in your head, and if you can just play it.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But only for small production things. When it becomes more instruments and the violins and the big drums, I'm going to the musician.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question that's related to this, because in the introduction, it's clear that we aim to big audiences, worldwide audiences, and I have the impression that the more you aim these big numbers, the more you use universal codes. And my question would be that, do you feel that when you're aiming this kind of huge network, can you still use your local identities? I think you maybe, Roni, you kind of, well, say yes, because you have a specific music, but when I hear a lot of series music, it feels like it's, there's a general universal
You're talking
code.
about music or?
Well, music and sound effects, like the impact sounds, the whooshes. I mean, it's a bit cliche, but the question is in general. But I think in the sound, it's very present. Can you still use your maybe more local creative identities, or do you have to conform to a general use or general codes? I don't know if the question is kind of clear.
I think more in script wise. Sometimes you say, does people overseas will understand what we're talking now, because it's a very Israeli situation, or otherwise half the series is in Farsi, and so thinking this is you use something that not all the people know, but I think that's the fun of it, because you have to stay Israeli, or I think Belgium or German, to make it authentic. When I see a series from Sweden, I want to see the Swedish style, and not the Swedish wants to be an American style. So I want to be all the time. I think that's what makes it more interesting. And if some things that not all the people, it will be clear for them, and I want people to maybe Google it. They will know better, because I think it makes that's what I do. Sometimes I don't know. I remember in Tehran there is a scene that someone is they have an affair, and it's illegal in Tehran, and someone is saying this is my temporary marriage. And what is temporary marriage in Israel? I don't have temporary marriage, and we thought maybe we need to cut it out. Do we need to explain it? And it was like a phrase that everyone who saw it, his ears just, what is temporary marriage? Mm-hmm. And people or Google it, or in Israel, they did in the newspaper, they wrote about it. So in the series Tehran, temporary marriage, let me explain what it is, and they have an article about it. So I think that's what the fun of it. You learn from each other. That's it.
What do you think, Anja, Denis, Koen, Stijn? Did you feel you had to conform to something more general, or not so much?
Can't think of anything. Can you?
Do it.
No, I can't think of anything. You?
No, not really. Maybe the
well,
rider,
I think
maybe the rider thing, but yeah.
The rider.
The rider thing, but
that was a question. Yeah, we didn't know if people know that. You know the chocolate bar, the rider, the Twix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was named Rider in Germany in the 80s, so that was special, kind of special.
Yeah, actually, we did talk about it, no? If people would know the special meaning of it, but I think it's no. I mean, also some songs, the German songs.
The Dinner song, for example. Yeah.
I guess you keep it a little bit, German, or like local or authentic, but with the. You find a certain balance. It's still, it doesn't really matter to an internet audience if there's a few things they don't understand, or as you say, you go and find out.
I think with Into the Night, they wanted to be more European rather than Belgian, because with all the different languages. I think it did start with Lost Frequencies, referring to music, which is a Belgian composer who's more famous, I think, in the States than in Belgium. But still, the showrunner wanted to start with that. I don't know if it was his intention that it was Belgian, but for the rest, I think it's more European.
Yeah, but I think Into the Night is very different from Tehran or The Dark in that way, that it's really actually the writer is American, so it's an American show which is set in Belgium, but it has all in the writing. It's in its core and in its structure and the narrative. It's all American, so it's really the Belgians doing an American show. So it's not really a typical Belgian show. It's just it's the whole concept is created in the mind of a very American person living in LA, and then the show is set in Belgium because Belgium is like the heart of Europe, and that's where a lot of people of all these nationalities meet. But I think that if you look at Into the Night, it couldn't be more atypical a Belgian show than Into the Night. There's really that's not a Belgian show. We would never make a show as Belgian authors. That's like Into the Night. It's made by Belgians, but it's really not a Belgian show.
No.
But to your question, did we feel like we had to change our way of working to reach a big audience? I think I wouldn't know how to do that. You just, to me, you look at the footage, and then in some way, hopefully the footage talks to you. And then just the way I cut something, I look at something, and then you look at all the takes, and then in your head, the scene starts building, and then you edit the scene, and then you think, I need music here and there, and then you put some sound effects. I think that comes internally. That's nobody is saying you're doing a big budget show, or you're doing a show that needs to reach a big audience. I think you just do your job as good as you know how to.
Yeah, absolutely. Then there's like the workflow of a season. I guess I have also a question related to that. The first question would be, did you lock all the episodes of one season in one go? Or did it go episode per episode, and you go to the rest of the post-production, audio mixing, grading? And related to that question, did you have the opportunity, or did you have to switch scenes from one episode to another? Was there a lot of restructuring within a season?
Yes, I think in Dark there was a lot of switching scenes from episode to episode. Also in the first season, we locked all episodes in 1 week, which was really crazy. And we changed it after that.
Yeah.
We locked then, as I said, we kind of split the season into 4 episodes and the next 4 episodes. So we locked and edited, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each editor had 1 episode from the first block and 1 from the second block. And they were locked and edited differently. Well, you kind of, you lock 1, 2, 3, 4, then you start with the other ones, and then of course you go back after the feedback comes. But you kind of keep them, a bit separate, like different timelines.
And once you were locked, you really were able to keep the lock, or did you have to remove the lock?
No,
I think we kept
it. Oh.
No, apart from, do you remember the last episode in the
Season
first
1?
Season? Like the day after lock, we got a phone call because I can't remember what was.
Yes, it was a montage where, I don't know, we switched one picture of an actor, or I don't know what it was.
No, I think he was in a place where he couldn't have been.
Ah,
so
yeah,
exactly. He was
long time ago.
Time travel too much.
And so, Roni or Koen, Stijn?
Not too many scenes were switched from each episode to each other. I think maybe once we did it, and we worked like episode 1 by 1, not locking everything together. It's also because it was broadcast every week, so we had to work like this, one in each other. Also in Apple TV, it was also released a week after week, not the whole the whole series together.
And would you prefer to be able to do it in one go? If you could choose between one?
No, Anja just said that it was not so much fun, so
No, okay, sorry.
I'm listening to Anja,
Yeah.
learning from each other.
And Koen?
Yeah, first it was, we locked each week, I think. Because like as Stijn said, Stijn started doing his editor's cut. A week later I start, so he has 15 days. Then he starts with the directors. Then he goes to the producer's cut. And the time he goes to the producer's cut, I start with the directors. And like some stairs, how should I? And then the lock as well, every week a lock. And I think Into the Night was the first series I did that we didn't change a scene from one episode to another.
No, we cut some scenes which we are now reusing in episode 2 in season 2 as flashbacks. But the storyline is it's such a plot-driven show that there's not a lot of scenes you can interchange between episodes, and every episode builds towards like this cliffhanger. So it's really not a show. It's the first show actually we didn't like flop a lot of stuff between episodes.
Stealing some shots here and there, yeah, from each other's scenes maybe.
Yeah, there was
different
a lot of
reactions,
restructuring internally in an episode, but not in between episodes. Which is comfortable if you can just follow the script. Sometimes it's nice to just think, maybe this script works as an episode.
Great. I have more an introspection question. If you review the editing of that show, if there's something you now feel you would do differently, if you would have the chance to redo the whole thing, is there something that you think of that you would do differently, or
on our shows?
Yes.
All the time. That's what I hate, going to premiere and watching things that I do, because all the time, too much, too hard, too slow.
Too long, too slow.
Why the music is here? I did it. Yes, you did it. All the time. And it's all the time. But if I watch the same thing like 3 years later, I'm more relaxed and I say, oh, it's nice. But if it's on the first screening, I have a lot of things that I have to say.
I think in like a structure like Netflix, there's so many opinions, and your opinion as an editor is maybe the least important.
Don't say that.
Compared to the showrunner and compared to the network, that you always think I wouldn't do it like this, but they want it like that, and you have to find solutions and you have to find compromises.
I think for Into the Night especially, there's like this period in the edit time that you're totally in charge and you decide everything, and then the more you evolve towards the end, it's somebody else who decides. So for Into the Night, that was the case. At the time the showrunner comes into play, it's really his show and he decides, and then you can point out that maybe this is just not a super good idea, and maybe we could do this and that. But if he overrules it, he says like, no, I want it like this, then you just have to make your peace with it. And Into the Night was very much a show that at a certain point, it's into the hands of the showrunner, and then it's into the hands of the producers at Netflix, and then there's some stuff in there that of course you would rather see differently. And I think also for the director, it was hard to at a certain point give away the show into the hands of the production team, which was the case for Into the Night, that there was no director's cut. Directors didn't have final cut. So after they do the director's cut, it's really, okay, this is what I propose, and then now it's up to the producer, showrunner, and then it's up to the people at Netflix. So that is, of course, hard, because the shows we worked on previously and right until the edit lock, there's stuff you you can change, and if there's really stuff that you really you really don't like, you can flag it, and you will find a solution that everybody will come to a certain point that we're at peace with. This is what it's going to be. And I think for Into the Night, there were some cuts in there that maybe we would like to have done differently, or maybe some musical choices, or maybe but then you're not the guy calling the shots. So I think at a certain point you need to make your peace with that.
But then, because I guess it might create more pressure to create a good director's cut, or not. But does it? Were there a lot of changes between director's cut and final cut?
For season 1, there were a lot of changes. Yeah.
You always try to deliver the best possible work. First your editor's cut, then the director's cut, where you try to go into the mind of the director and try to do what he's doing and still liking what you do. And the same with the producer. You can propose things and you can suggest things, and maybe they go with it.
I think the edits also got better after the director's cut, because it's an additional 5 days of working. So hopefully your edit gets better, and then it's a new take on how the edit was at that point, and it's done by the guy who wrote it. So obviously he has some views on maybe we can do this way and this that way. So I think the edit improved a lot, going from editor's cut to director's cut to producer's cut. But for us it was a different approach to editing a show than we would do cutting like a show for national TV.
But are you then sending a new version of the episode every day, every 2 days? How close is it, the feedback going?
Now we're in the middle of season 2, so I'm cutting episode 1 and 4. So in episode 1 we're into the Netflix rounds. So I just sent a new cut to the showrunner, which is like a work in progress, and he'll approve it by tomorrow, and then we'll send it to Netflix. And then the next day I'll be starting on the director's cut for episode 4, and then after 5 days we'll be sending that. So we're 3 editors. So at this point, I think today from the studio we sent out 4 different versions of 4 different episodes to different people who need to watch it.
And they will give you mail notes or
notes come in via mail at this point.
Yeah.
The directors will see face to face, and then with the producer, showrunner, we'll email and we'll chat via Zoom.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit tired.
I have a question for the guys of Dark. Yeah. Is it for you the same that you feel that is sometimes a compromise, what you want?
I think there's things I had to fight for, and as you said, some things I think you just make peace with, because sometimes it's also, I think it's, maybe I can understand the other opinion. Yeah. I think I can go with it, it's fine. But then there are other things where I did fight, for certain things.
With director, with producer, with Netflix?
Well, I guess with Dark is very much the director, has really Denis. I think he wie kann man das sagen? Das, he was in I don't know how to say. What? Nee, dass halt eigentlich, weil Netflix, hat ja mehr mit Netflix das ausgemacht. Also wir hatten ja nicht direkt so mit Netflix diesen Konflikt.
Okay, yeah.
We didn't send it to him and then to the, it was more, also he got the Netflix cuts, the Netflix notes, the director.
And they filtered it before.
And then, so it wasn't, we had to send it to him and then to them. it was all via the director.
Which is kind of the case in Into the Night also, all of the
Showrunner.
Yeah.
But since
Yeah,
he was not here in the room with us,
Oh.
that was a bit more. And he wrote it, and he's very American, and yeah,
But
he knew
so-
exactly what he wants.
So the showrunner is the author, and then
Yes,
there was
the
a
show.
director who is not the showrunner, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was a bit different. So
Yeah.
there's an extra stage in our
Yeah.
process in that way, in
I
that
see.
sense.
Yeah,
this
I
is-
guess we didn't have that.
It's not a typical
Showrunners.
Belgian, workflow either. Normally, the director is in charge, and then he has final say over mostly everything. And I think for our directors, it was also very hard to, at a certain point, give away the decision making to somebody else.
And did Dark and Tehran, did you have also the system of editor's cut, director's cut, producer's cuts, the whole?
In Tehran, it's not that formally. It's like I'm working, the director he's the showrunner, is asking me when can I come to the room, and then I'm saying I invite him, and then we watch it together, making our own notes together, and then we continue to the producers and to the broadcaster and to the streamer. But it's all the time it's improving. I think every cut is it's improving. And about what Koen said, it's, I think editors are people of compromise. This is our job, I think, to find solutions. I think it won't help if I will fight over. I can stand for some things, but at the end, I need a director to be happy with my job, and it won't help if I will say no, I want to.
I think every time I see a finished result, there are certain aspects of a film or a show or whatever that I'm really happy that I did have a discussion with the director about, and then we did achieve to do it in the way I maybe proposed. But there's probably an equal amount of stuff that I like Anja said, fought for, that once I see it on the screen, I go like, maybe this wasn't that important. Maybe it works the way the director or the producer or whatever, and maybe it was just me wanting to have it my way, and then I must admit when I see it, it also works. So sometimes it's hard to know when to push and when to take a step back. And then it's also very easy to have a collaborator you work with for a long time, that if you're a bit uncertain, you can just show it to somebody who knows your taste, who knows your opinion. And then if he says, okay, just push for it because it's really, really bad and you need to get it out of the cut. And then you feel like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll do the extra push to get this out. So that's also one of the advantages of having somebody you can trust and you know for a long time, see stuff you cut before showing it to somebody else.
Even the discussion is important between each other. You can talk about it. It will move your show to a better place if you did it or not.
It's
Discussion,
really
okay, we know why we did it.
1 + 1 is not 2, it's really 3.
And it's open communication. You can say if something you can say once, you can say 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5th time, maybe hopefully somebody else within the process also says, and then the director says maybe.
Yeah.
The benefit amongst editors is there is no emotional connection to the story, which the director always has. So it's really objective. And then if you're friends like we are, there's no ego also. So it's really just an objective opinion, which is really super valuable if you're editing.
I think that's the most important thing about the ego. To work in a team like we did at the series, or I don't know, for feature, or I don't know, whatever. It's always that be respectfully, to learn from each other. So I love it. Yeah.
So I guess no one would want to edit a whole series by themselves then.
No.
No, definitely not.
Also, the time you would need, you would say, my job, and you will. No, thank you.
But I think that's what I liked the most because before I just did feature films, and then Dark was my first series. And that's what I like, finally you work with other people and you talk about the stuff you do, and, you open to changes. I think doing features sometimes is very lonely.
But I did it also for feature films, and it was quite nice also.
Yeah, I know, but I did the 2 artistic features, and
I know.
they were low budget. There was no.
And the lines are much better when you have another one.
Pardon?
The lunches are much better.
Yeah, quality time.
Yeah, exactly.
Quality time.
We received a lot of questions about VFX. And my question to you would be, were there a lot of VFX in general? But also, did you use VFX to solve problems?
Yeah, we did. So timing-wise, we have a lot of fluid motions in it, split screens, stuff like that, to rearrange the timing stuff about the acting, or sometimes to put something out which is not really acted well, maybe. And this time warp stuff, all you guys, we tried, or we used, definitely.
I read that there was a lot of codes of, like you mentioned, backgrounds, things that refer to the timelines. Was there some things also added, I don't know, background to the street or codes or some things that refer to certain timelines? VFX then? No.
How do you mean? I don't know.
Yeah, to refer, for example, over a specific time, that in the street you would have this kind of signs, or
okay, there were marked VFX shots from the beginning. So they were in budget, and they were handled that, and then there was retouching stuff, or I don't know what else to do. Also the power plant electricity, so also birds falling from the sky, stuff like that.
And Roni?
We had also a lot of VFX and turning day to night and windows, a lot of aircrafts fighting, and I use a lot YouTube because I want to know if this thing is working, and I'm building it. We're moving it to the special effects guy, Alon Salanga, a very talented man. But now that we have, I think, everything in YouTube, every 13, 14-year-old in whatever, I don't know, Texas, or putting things like aircrafts on green screen, and I'm taking it and playing with it. And because I need to know much more before it gets to him, if the scene is working. I want to know if I'm in the good timing and everything. So I can't wait for them. So I'm putting it all together from YouTube, and then we replace it in a much better way. But I always, all the time, I'm working from YouTube, and
I'm doing the same way.
Every time. I just I like it, I think.
Yeah, me too. I think it's important too.
Yeah.
Timing wise and visually, so to create a style or to see how long does the aircraft needs to be from point A to B, or I don't know. That's really important.
Yeah.
And you're always working with handles normally in the phase of when you do an assembly or the first cut of a scene. You're always working with handles to get if you plate where something should fly from A to B, you cut it in 2 seconds longer maybe, that the VFX guys can do the timing stuff, and later they send me the shot and I put it in the right way.
Yeah. Most of the time you're waiting for them, so
yeah.
we don't have time for that.
And Into the Night?
Into the Night was kind of different in a way that there was no time to wait really for the VFX guys to do their stuff. So we didn't receive anything while editing. So we had our assistant Matthias, our great assistant, watch every plane movie available ever made, and he pulled all of the exterior shots, which we then conveniently used in the edit. And it turns out there's not a whole lot of stuff a plane can do that isn't already been done in VFX. So we had a lot of shots from other films that we could just copy paste to our edit, and it was kind of, this is pretty close to what I need, but it doesn't need to be a desert, it needs to be Iceland or whatever, but that you can imagine. So we would just write a VFX note, okay, this is a plane going down in Iceland, whatever. And then of course, everything is set on an airplane in season 1. Almost everything. So all of the cockpit stuff was shot with green screens, which we actually edited with green screens right until the picture lock really. And then after picture lock, also nothing changed timing wise, because the Netflix had said, okay, we're gonna come out with this show May 1st. And we're going to come out with this show May 1st. Happen what happened, it will be May 1st. So our timing was really strict. Okay, that's the day you need to lock. And then there were no visual effects because the visual effects were in Paris, and then they hadn't done anything by then. So it was just really hoping that the timing was right. And I think looking in hindsight, looking at the finished product, I do feel there are some shots that I would have rather had in there for a second more or something, but the effects was also so complicated. I don't think I'd be able to find it on YouTube, the specific shots, because it's very hard to determine, if the script reads there's planes burning and people yelling. Yeah, but how many planes, from how far, and how many people are there? And that really determines how long you need to look at a shot. And then once you see the finished shot, and I wasn't done looking at it, and it's the next shot. And no, I haven't seen the shot. So as an editor, it's super frustrating, because if there's that amount of detail into the shot, I would cut it in longer. And then so I felt frustrated seeing the show, and then while I was streaming, I was like, because it feels like your pace is totally wrong. But even if you cut in like something you find on YouTube, and they change it from 1 plane to 5 planes, and from 5 people to 100, yeah, that's a different timing. So I did feel sometimes a little bit frustrated seeing the finished results of the VFX.
But so if I understand it right, you all do the temp VFX editing yourself, or sometimes it's an assistant that does it for Koen and Stijn, I understood. But Roni, you do it by yourself, and for Dark, you also did it by yourself, or did you rely on someone else?
Yeah, when there was the time for, definitely. Yeah, so otherwise you have a VFX editor or an assistant who could do that layout for you. So yeah, it depends.
And then we have the hot topic. Which software did you use to edit it?
Avid.
Okay.
Done.
I think the communication we got was actually that Netflix only wants to work with Avid, and they only want to work with the Avid server. So that was really the info we got. Okay, you need to be on Avid Nexus. That's just the ground.
Because of security or what?
Yeah, and I think they also want to keep the footage. I don't know, but that was really, it needs to be on Avid, and you need to do it on the Nexus server. So we bought the Nexus server because otherwise, actually, Netflix bought it for us. But we're very happy to have a Netflix server now.
But it's very useful since we have 3 edit suites here, so you can switch to different rooms. Which is very easy, and I also think that Avid is the most convenient and most easy software if you work in a team.
Yeah.
You can switch bins so fast.
If they would have given us the choice, we would, of course, choose for Avid. No questions asked.
No.
I have the same impression. I when we worked on a series, we were sometimes 4 editors working on the same all the time, because you also had one editor who was doing, that's also a question, the recaps. And so, yeah, you had 2 editors work on the same episode, sometimes one on a new episode, so like the new director's cut, you could say, and the recap editor. Which also question, did you do your own recaps, or was it someone else? If you had recaps, of course.
No recaps here.
No recaps in Into the Night.
We had recaps, and we had another editor who did it, and she was very good at it because she found mistakes. One mistake in our episode. She said, "How come they know about it?" And we said, "Oh, it's not supposed to be over there." So.
And no recap for Dark?
No, but I would never do my own recaps or trailer work for the films I've edited, because you're thinking completely different in a story way, and you can't decide sometimes to put something in that short case of a trailer or I don't know. I think for me it's really difficult to do it.
I also feel when it's time to edit the recaps and the trailer, I want to move on to a new show. I don't want to do the recaps and the trailer.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going back to Avid, because there's also something, if you do the VFX in Avid, it's getting better, but do you do your VFX in other program and then import it into Avid, or how does it go for you?
Everything in Avid.
Yeah.
Unless it comes from the VFX studio, and
if you get a previous, of course, they do it in another program.
Then you just import it.
So.
Yeah, sometimes I think we should round up, but there was a question from Jean about the sound editing. How much sound, like, of course, I can imagine the question would be more, because it says, as we do with feature films, that sometimes the film editor goes on into the sound editing, but I guess not on the Avid anymore, but already in Pro Tools. Sometimes that's the traditional way of working. But I would say more, you as an editor in Avid, how much sound work do you already do? Soundscapes, sound effects, yeah. How much is already done in the Avid?
A lot.
Possible?
Yeah.
Much as possible.
Yeah, you have to push play, and it has to feel like you're watching a finished show.
Yeah.
You try to make it look like it's already finished, or make it sound like it's a finished product.
I don't like to say in a screening to the producers, after the sound it will be better. It's supposed to be great now. Not great now, so we have to do some stuff to make it better.
And do you get to go to sound editing if you, so outside of your editing room, you go to listen to the mix?
Yeah.
And
I'm
do
trying to
you,
do it every time.
and do you get to say, have your say? There's something you say, oh,
Yeah. I like it.
I think it's essential also
Yeah.
because you're trying to tell a story in images and in sound, and there's nobody so familiar with the story or with the edit choices than you really after the editing. So I think you have valuable input to give there. And then for Into the Night, it wasn't the case for us. We weren't involved in everything after picture lock. But for other shows we are, and then it's really also a fun stage of post-production, I feel, because there will always be some cuts or some issues that you tried really hard to solve, but really you aren't 100% sure that you succeeded, and then some guys come in and they go like, poof, and all of a sudden magically it does work, that transition that you worked so hard on. So I feel it's a fun stage in editing a show, the post-production of the sound.
but it's something also in the schools that we try to avoid talking about picture editors, just to say editors in general. We edit everything. I think we're getting almost to the end of the night. I have a question for Dark. The title sequence. The title sequence set up in reference to the Hoogzaag test stains. Was that a script idea or did it come to in the editing?
No, it comes. It depends. So most of all, it comes from the title designer, Lutz. We gave him a lot of shots of the footage from the footage. Maybe we thought they are right to build something like that, and he tried to create something like that, and it works. And we have some changes after a while, and give him some input or change some shots. But it was his work. So as a title designer, I thought we said to him something like a minute, or I don't know, give him a time range and the footage for, and the rest was his creative work. So
I think it was a bit towards like in the second half of the post-production. So there was already a lot of scenes and almost episodes, so he could build his ideas on those feelings of the of the whole the emotions of the show.
Yes.
Great.
I have a question actually for Roni. How did you deal with all the languages? Because Denis and me are going to work on a project with also a lot of different languages we don't speak. So how did you do that?
Well, me and this, I have a little bit experience because I already edit in Russian, French, Arabic, which in Hebrew you know a little bit, and Farsi is now, it's like the big time, so much far from everything that I knew, but I think that it's very, I like it because first of all you get to learn. You don't know how to speak the language, but you get the scripts with one line in Farsi, one line in Farsi in English letters, and one line in Hebrew or in English. Like that's the whole script. You get it, and after I read every scene, that I know what's going on over there, and then I watch the rushes, and I must say that I feel it's a little bit, when I edit a Hebrew scene, that it's my language, all the time my brain is like searching for mistakes. Oh, she didn't say that good. Oh, he did the mistakes. He was mumbling over there, and I'm trying to make it better. But when I watch it in Farsi, it's like my brain is only watching, is it good or bad? Do I believe to him or not? And it's like later when I watch Hebrew dailies, I'm trying to imitate this feeling. Okay, let's say that I don't really know this language, but is this actor is good now or not? And after all, I put all the sentences like in the script. I can play with it like you feel that you know the scene already. You know the language, every scene. And when we finish all episodes, we brought in a special Farsi talker, and he says, okay, this was a mistake, this was not a mistake. He sees if we're doing like cuts. It's if the actors are improvising a lot, it's making it difficult. But if not a lot, like in one episode, we brought the Farsi speaker, and I told him, watch this line. I don't know, it's not written in the script, and we found like a great joke that the actor did by himself, and it's immediate. It was after we almost finished the episode altogether, and everyone said, even in the broadcast, okay, it's a good episode. Go just check that the Farsi is good, and then we find another sentence that was did the scene much better. And good luck with that.
Yeah, we have Chinese stuff. I think that's really tricky.
Cantonese.
Cantonese, sorry.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I will call you.
Yes.
I'm speaking also.
I wouldn't worry too much, because I've edited a lot of different languages, and Into the Night also has quite a few languages. And then there's a certain rhythm in talking and speaking that you kind of feel when you need to cut and when an idea is finished, and it kind of comes natural. And of course, you do make mistakes, and then when a native speaker comes in and translates it, there will be some mistakes. But I think the most important part you get right, because there's like a certain rhythm to speaking. I don't know in Chinese, but in most other languages, you kind of feel the rhythm. Certainly, when you see the quotes a zillion times, you get familiar with it. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
But you also, so you just had the script, and then you edited, and then afterwards you had someone to check the language as well.
Into the Night, we have multi-language scripts. So we'll have a script which is completely in French, completely in English, and then in the languages as spoken on the set. So we'll have 3 separate scripts. When we finish the editor's cut, there'll be a week before we continue with the director, and in that, in the final week of the editor's cut, the edit will be translated, and the assistant spots like the subtitles by the time you export it. So then, for the first time, you really know what they're actually saying, because they will do ad-libs, and you won't know for sure. But I actually did a documentary about in a set in Afghanistan with 7 different languages local to the people there, which nobody understood, not even the director. And we cut the film, and then the director went back to those tribes living in the hills of that particular place where the scene was shot. And a lot of the time it actually matched like the cutting, because you just kind of feel, and then the moments they move their eyes, and then the way their body language, you just kind of feel the natural flow of a conversation, even in a language you don't understand.
Yeah. For the team, I worked additional editor on the first season. What was a good trick is that we asked the assistant to put subtitles on the master shot of every scene. And so not only was it very practical to make the link between what we hear and what we read, because then there was Danish, and you know it's very weird.
We also have Danish.
Yes.
Yeah, it's to make the link between the written and the oral, the vocal is quite a switch. But and then you also have, it was subtitles. So what we did is, after we made the first cut of the scene, we also always put the subtitles from the footage on the scene. So
Yeah, that's how we planned it right now. Yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about it afterwards. Then you don't have to send it to. Well, sometimes the assistant would also go through the whole episode and put the subtitles, but you just have to copy paste it.
Yeah.
And don't get panic in your first days of working. Because at the beginning you're saying, how can I do it? And you start to listen to the language, and it's like you feel her groove.
Isn't that something we never should do? It's panic.
Yes.
Either way, bad feedback, good feedback.
Yeah.
Stay calm.
Interesting question also. Do any of you use script sync? The Avid? No.
Never used it.
No.
Neither. But it's, yeah, I know editors who do use it.
I also know.
And I feel like once you get used to it, you don't want to live without. But yeah, I think
It's a lot of work to do for the assistant to
Mhm.
prepare everything.
You need a lot of budget to use the script syncing.
And maybe one last question, but it's because there's also a lot of well, some students in the audience, and the question is, did you all have to, or in your career, did you start up as an assistant editor?
I did, yes.
Yeah, me too.
No, I didn't. I started as a promos director and editor, like this 20 seconds, 30 seconds stuff. And after a few years, I went on to edit TV series.
I started editing for TV and then moved to commercial and then into fiction.
Okay. Koen? Yeah.
I started working at the production house here in Belgium as an assistant editor for commercials, editing casting tapes and editing making offs, and from there on I moved on to editing commercials, and then I was fed up and I wanted to be an editor in feature films or TV series. So.
And what would you say to starting editors that say, I want to edit Netflix shows?
Well, I think every job you do is an important job. Even as I remember when I did casting tapes, it was important for the producers to have it on time, and you have to deliver it on time, and you have to make sure it's good. And it's every job you do is the most important job you have. So do it as good as possible, and then they'll pick you up and they give you an easy job, an easy commercial job. Because my first was just cutting it 30 seconds out of a take and put it on screen. And if you do that well, then they give you a bigger job. And you have to deliver every time, I think.
I think the key is to find a place, an interesting working place with interesting people, and then if you do your job well, you will get noticed and you will get opportunities to do interesting stuff, and then one thing happens and then the next thing happens. Well, what Koen says is absolutely true. Just deliver the best possible work, and then hopefully somebody notices that you're not a complete idiot, and then you get to do something else.
And try to edit as much as possible.
Yeah. But I think it's also important to work as an assistant, to have an editor with who's into the business, or he's doing great big films. So I think that's a good step, to work with someone like that, to learn about, to be in the business. And then maybe step by step doing a team film, doing a recap, doing I don't know, smaller stuff. So after a while, it's getting more and more. And when the producers see that you are some talented guy, or I don't know, then you get maybe a job after that, maybe a small one first, and then it grows up. And I think it's a good way to step in the industry, kind of, after a university, or I don't know.
No, I think that's very true for if you're in a country which employs a lot of assistants. But the Belgian workflow is the fact that there's not really a lot of budget to employ assistants on features. So it's really kind of need to find your way on your own a little bit. I think if that's a possibility, it's super interesting to learn from a more experienced editor, for sure.
Roni, anything you want to add?
You just need to find your breakthrough and wait for opportunities. I think everyone has his own path. If you ask, how did you get to where you got? So it's not like if you want to be a doctor, so you have to go to university and learn how to be a doctor. And it's good if I learn cinema in my high school, and I learn music in my university, and everyone has his own way to get places. But if you got an opportunity, you just have to jump on it and do it as better as you can.
Yeah, and be social. I think it's a social job. You have to sit next to a director and talk about, ask questions, talk about yourself, not too much. It's a social job, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So be nice.
Well, great. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing so much, for your insights, for your tips.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. But the thing is, normally we had a Q&A, but we inserted it in all the questions. So I think we can finish this first great event. I don't know, Alex, if you want to add something, you can put on your camera. Or not, I will just say the finishing words. But yeah, thank you all for coming. I think we had somehow we were over 200 for quite a while, for the long time, 200 people all over the world watching. So yeah. So
yes, thank you for organizing.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. All right. Well, I think we're going to finish this. I'm not sure, Wiebe, not sure if he's going to be able to talk. Do we do this idea of having a bar?
I think we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do that another time.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about maybe having like a little drink afterwards, but like you do before pandemic time. But it's gonna be a little bit difficult, and maybe we should leave it as it is. But thank you everybody at home for very, very good questions, and thank you all the panelists for very good answers, and hope to do this lots of times. Let's do the next one soon.
Exactly. Alex, something you want to add?
I can just say this was the most inspiring discussion I've listened to in a long time. I was really absolutely in admiration of what everybody said. I've learned so much. I found this a real experience as an editor, and especially the teamwork. Oh my God, it was with so many themes that I would like to continue to talk about and work on. I think you did an admirable job, and oh my God, I was really stunned. Sorry, I was just picking up my stuff, so I came a bit late, but I was listening to it and I was just amazed. And I thank you, Noga, Wiebe, and you for your fantastic moderation. Great job.
Thank you.
Just loved it. Can't wait to see the recording.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.